The rain came down like silver needles over Charlotte's East End, washing neon reflections across the glistening pavement outside the district table. Inside, the air buzzed with noise. Orders barked from the kitchen, glasses clinking, the low hum of impatient customers scrolling through phones, while the smell of seared beef and truffle fries coiled thick in the air. Behind the counter, Nia Bennett, 30, moved with quiet precision. Her apron was damp with sweat, her sneakers sticking to the tile with each step. Her back ached, her mind raced with overdue bills, and her 8-year-old son, home with a tight chest and no backup inhaler, weighed heavy on her thoughts. But still, she smiled. Still, she served. No one noticed the man who walked in without a reservation, without a Rolex, without a smile. Except her, and that choice, to offer a menu, not a judgment, would cost Nia everything before it gave her anything. Because the man she served that night wasn't just a customer, he was watching. And what he saw in Nia, it would set off a chain reaction no one saw coming. The dinner rush at the district table didn't arrive quietly. It slammed through the doors like a freight train. At 7:38 p.m., the dining room pulsed with sound and movement. Silverware clinked, receipts printed in stuttering bursts, and orders flew through the kitchen like missiles. Double patty, no tomato. Fries walking, table 9's on fire. The sizzle of hot oil and charred meat mixed with the low thrum of hip-hop pouring from hidden ceiling speakers. Waitstaff bobbed and weaved between packed booths like dancers in a chaotic ballet. In the back, steam fogged the windows. The floor was slick with grease and stress. Nia Bennett, 30, moved through it all like she was born for war. She wore exhaustion in the tight set of her shoulders, but her eyes stayed sharp. Her ponytail swung behind her as she pivoted with a tray in one hand, a notepad in the other. Her white sneakers, once pristine, were soaked from a spill near the dish pit. She hadn't had water in hours. Didn't matter. Rent was due, Mason's inhaler needed refilling, and she was 4 hours into an 8-hour shift. "Runner for table 12, someone yelled. "I got it," Nia shouted back, already heading in that direction. She dropped the tray with a practiced smile, nodding at a couple too absorbed in their phones to thank her. She didn't wait. No time. Back to the counter. That's when he walked in. The front door hissed open, letting in a gust of night air and rain. He wasn't flashy. No tailored blazer, no Rolex. Just a pressed button-down, dark slacks, and calm eyes that scanned the chaos like he wasn't in a hurry to belong. Mid-40s, clean cut. A presence, not a performance. Nia clocked him immediately. He stood there, unbothered, unacknowledged, as Rick Travers, the floor manager, leaned across the bar flirting with Carly, who giggled like it was her job. Trevor, too busy cherry-picking which tables tipped best, side-eyed the man and looked away. Nobody moved, except Nia. She stepped forward, wiping her hands on her apron. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to the district table. Can I get you started with something warm?" The man turned to her slowly, and for a breath, the restaurant fell into a strange quiet, like something had shifted, just slightly, off-center. He smiled. It wasn't wide, but it was genuine. "Well, it's nice to finally be noticed." Behind her, Nia could feel Rick's eyes burning into her back. Carly muttered something under her breath. Trevor scoffed, but Nia didn't flinch. She held her ground, pen ready. "That's why I'm here," she said softly, "to make sure no one gets left standing." The man gave a slow nod. "Then I'll have the double bacon burger, extra crispy fries, and a black coffee." "Coming right up," she said, already tapping it into the system. She didn't know his name, didn't know what he wanted. But something told her this moment meant more than it looked. And outside, beyond the glass, thunder rolled across Charlotte like a warning shot no one had heard yet. The kitchen doors flapped open like saloon shutters as Nia slid through, her fingers already pinching the ticket from the printer. "Double bacon, no pickles, drop it now," she called over the clamor. Behind the grill, Marcus gave her a tired salute and tossed 2 patties onto the searing flat top. The air hissed, fry baskets dropped, the rhythm resumed. But Nia could feel it, the stares, the static. Rick, still hovering near the soda station, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Carly shot her a glance full of venom. Trevor whispered something, and they both laughed, not even trying to hide it now. She was supposed to leave that man waiting. Unspoken rules ruled this place. Don't waste energy on people who look ordinary. Prioritize the flashy suits, the designer bags, the ones who act like they own the building. Rick didn't say it aloud, but everyone got the message. And tonight, Nia had broken rank. Again. She plated the food herself, piping hot fries, crisp and golden. The burger stacked perfectly, scented, clean, wrapped in fresh wax paper. She poured the coffee fresh, steam rising like a promise. As she walked it out, her hands steady, a voice murmured behind her. "Saint Nia at it again," Trevor muttered. "Let's see if he tips," Carly added, flipping her hair. Nia didn't turn around. The man was still seated alone, his posture relaxed, hands folded neatly in his lap. He hadn't touched his phone. He wasn't scrolling or pretending to be busy. He was watching. Not in a creepy way, in a way that made her feel seen. She placed the tray down with care. Double bacon, no pickles, extra crispy, and one black coffee. He smiled as he picked up the mug, turning it slightly in his hand like he was weighing something invisible. "You have a good attitude," he said casually, but the weight behind the words landed like a stone. "Not everyone takes their job seriously, but you do." Nia blinked. "I just believe everyone deserves to be treated right," she said, quieter than she intended. The man studied her for another beat. Then, with a slow nod, he said, "That's rare." Before she could respond, he added, "You deserve more than what you've got here." Nia's heart paused mid-beat. She tried to smile, tried to keep it professional, but her throat tightened around a dozen unspoken thoughts. What did that mean? Was he just being kind? Or did he know something? He popped a fry into his mouth like the moment hadn't just cracked open a seam in her world. "Thank you, Nia." He said her name. She hadn't given it. She stepped back, stunned, as he returned to his meal. Across the dining room, Rick watched from the shadows of the server alley, jaw clenched, knuckles tapping the wall in a steady rhythm. Something had shifted. The others didn't know it yet. Not Carly, not Trevor, not even Nia. But Rick did, and he didn't like it one damn bit. Outside, lightning traced sharp lines through the clouds. Inside, the quiet act of defiance sat between a burger, a black coffee, and a name spoken with intention. Something was coming, and the district table would never be the same. The morning after the storm, the district table smelled like coffee, bleach, and betrayal. The rain had washed the streets clean, but inside the restaurant, tension clung like smoke. The neon "Now Open" sign flickered in the window, casting a pale pulse against the tile floor. Nia stepped through the front doors, her hoodie damp, apron rolled under her arm, trying to convince herself that last night had just been another shift. It wasn't. Rick stood near the register, arms crossed, his usual smug grin replaced by something harder, colder. Carly leaned against the drink station, sipping a smoothie like it was theater. Trevor glanced up from behind the counter, smirking, then looked away. Something was off. Nia's instincts, sharpened by years of survival, screamed at her, but she needed this paycheck. Rent was already late. Mason's school was calling about overdue lunch fees. She kept moving. Just as she was about to clock in, Rick's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Nia, office, now." Every step toward that back hallway felt heavier than the last. The office door clicked shut behind her, sealing her in with the scent of stale paper and old resentment. Rick sat behind the desk, hands folded neatly like a judge preparing sentence. "Have a seat." She stayed standing. Rick exhaled slowly, as if burdened by the responsibility of being the executioner. "We've been reviewing staff performance," he said flatly, "and we've decided to make some cuts." Her blood ran cold. "What?" Rick leaned back in the chair. "You're being let go, effective immediately." The words hung in the air like smoke from a grease fire. "But what? Why?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "You said we were short-staffed. I just pulled 3 doubles this week." "It's not about hours," he replied coolly. "It's about culture fit, attitude, not following established priorities." She stared at him. "You mean serving the man no one else would touch?" Rick's smile didn't reach his eyes. "This isn't up for discussion." "But you saw the others ignore him. You saw how they treated him." He shrugged. "That's not your call to fix." Nia's fists curled at her sides, her breath caught in her chest. This wasn't about job performance, it was about power, about keeping her in line. She forced her voice to stay steady. "You're punishing me for treating someone like a human being." Rick stood slowly. "You want to play the hero? Do it somewhere else." She didn't cry, not here, not for him. Instead, she turned on her heel and walked out, past the kitchen, past Carly's smug glance and Trevor's phony concern, out the doors and into the cold morning light. The air slapped her face as she stepped onto the sidewalk. Her fingers shook as she pulled out her phone. She stared at Mason's name on the screen, but couldn't hit the call. Her reflection stared back at her in the glass, tired, small, discarded, fired for doing the right thing. And yet, somewhere deep beneath the rising panic, a voice whispered, "This isn't over, not by a long shot." The apartment was silent except for the low hum of the fridge and the occasional creak from the hallway pipes. Outside, the streets of East Charlotte murmured in the distance, cars passing, sirens wailing somewhere far off. But in here, everything felt suspended. Nia sat on the couch, still in her uniform, apron balled up on the floor. Her phone lay face down on the coffee table beside a stack of unopened bills and an envelope holding her last paycheck. She hadn't eaten, couldn't, her stomach twisted with a cocktail of rage, fear, and shame. She stared at the ceiling, trying to piece together what the hell just happened. Fired. No notice, no explanation that made sense, just a smug smile from Rick and silence from everyone else. All because she did what was right. All because she didn't look away. Mason, her 8-year-old, slept in the other room, his small rhythmic breathing the only thing anchoring her to reality. Then her phone rang. Nia jolted upright, heart thudding. Unknown number, late at night, every instinct screamed to ignore it. But something, curiosity, desperation, fate, made her answer. "Hello?" A pause, then a smooth, steady voice came through. "Good evening, Ms. Bennett. This is Malcolm Cross." She sat up straighter, her pulse spiked. I'm sorry, who?" "We met briefly yesterday, at the district table." She froze, her mind jumped to the man in the button-down, the one she served when no one else would. "Yes," she breathed, "I remember." Another pause. "I assume you're no longer employed there." Her chest tightened. "No, I'm not." "I figured as much." The line went quiet again. She could hear him breathing, calm, deliberate. Then he spoke, measured, intentional. "I'd like to hear why." She hesitated. Should she lie? Should she hold back? What would be the point? So she told him. Everything. How Rick ignored him, how the others whispered, how she stepped in and paid for it the next morning. Every word felt risky, but cathartic. By the time she finished, there was silence again. For a moment, she thought he'd hung up. Then, "Can you meet me tomorrow morning?" Nia blinked. "Meet you?" "I have a proposal," he said. "You'll understand when we speak." I don't even know who you really are." "You'll find out soon." Where?" "I'll text you the address, 9 a.m. Don't be late." And just like that, the line went dead. She stared at the phone, heartbeat in her throat. What kind of man makes a call like that? Then a text pinged. Cross & Company Private Office Cafe, 291 Glenwood. 9 a.m. Her fingers curled tightly around the device. She couldn't explain it, why her hands were suddenly trembling, why her breath came faster. But something had shifted. Again, it wasn't just a phone call, it was an opening. Nia rose from the couch and walked to the window. Rain had started again, tapping against the glass like a second-chance knocking. She looked out across the city, her reflection dim in the pane. Tomorrow something was coming, and for once it didn't feel like survival, it felt like momentum. The morning light crept over Charlotte's skyline, painting the glass towers in gold and ash. Nia stood outside a sleek little cafe, tucked between a law office and a boutique flower shop on Glenwood Avenue. The place didn't even have a name on the door, just a minimalist black decal, Cross & Company. Inside, soft jazz played beneath the hiss of a high-end espresso machine. The scent of ground beans and warm croissants wrapped around her as she stepped in. A woman in a tailored blazer offered her a polite nod before returning to her laptop. Everyone here looked like they belonged. Nia felt like she was breathing someone else's air. Then she saw him. Malcolm Cross sat near the window in a grey suit. Tailored, pressed, effortless. No tie, no flash. Just presence. He stirred his coffee slowly, the spoon clinking softly against porcelain. He didn't look up right away. He didn't need to. When he did, he simply said, "Ms. Bennett." She nodded and slid into the seat across from him, hands folded tightly in her lap. "Thanks for calling." "I rarely do," he replied, "but last night warranted it." The waitress approached with quiet precision. "Anything for you?" Nia blinked. Just a drip coffee. Black." The waitress nodded and left. Malcolm leaned back slightly, resting his forearm along the edge of the table. "Do you know who I am, Nia?" Her eyes searched his. "You said your name was Cross. And this cafe, I saw the sign." He offered a faint smile. "I'm the founder and majority owner of the district table and every location that shares its name." The words hit her like cold water. She sat upright. "Wait, you own it? All of it?" He nodded once. "I visit unannounced. No PR team, no driver. I dress plain, blend in, because I want to see what happens when people think I don't matter." Nia's heart thudded in her chest. "And what I saw at your location," he continued, "told me more than any quarterly report ever could." He spoke with a calm that didn't ask for attention, it commanded it. "I saw a manager who coddled the arrogant. I saw a culture where kindness was weakness, and I saw employees who followed that script, until you didn't." Nia stared at him, unsure whether to feel honored or terrified. "You treated me like I mattered, not because you thought I was someone, but because you thought everyone should matter." He reached into the inside pocket of his suit and pulled out a leather card holder. From it, he slid a simple embossed business card across the table. "I want you to return, but not as a server." She blinked. "What?" "I want you to manage the location, clean house, rebuild it, change the culture, if you're willing." Her hands hovered over the card. It felt like a trap, a dream, a storm waiting to break. "I've never managed anyone," she whispered. "You've already led," Malcolm said. "You just didn't have the title." Silence. Then he stood. "Take the night to think. But if you're ready to stop taking orders and start giving them, I'll be waiting." He walked out with the same quiet command he arrived with, leaving Nia alone with a card, a cup of black coffee, and a choice that could rewrite everything. By 7:55 the next morning, Nia stood in front of the district table in a crisp Navy manager's uniform that didn't feel like hers. Yet, her reflection in the glass doors was steadier than she felt inside. When she stepped through those doors, everything paused. Conversations halted, orders half-spoken hung in the air. Carly, still mid-lip gloss, stopped cold at the host stand. Trevor, loading cups by the soda fountain, turned and froze like he'd seen a ghost. Then came the heavy footsteps. Rick Travers, still very much employed as far as anyone knew, pushed through the kitchen doors with the swagger of a man who'd never been challenged. His gaze locked on her name tag, his face twisted. "What the hell is this?" Nia met his stare with one of her own. "I'm the new manager." For a long, tense second, no one breathed. Rick's jaw tightened. "Where's Malcolm Cross?" "I want to speak to him. Now." A new voice cut through the room, calm, icy, absolute. "You won't need to," Malcolm said, stepping in from behind her. He walked in like he owned the oxygen, because he did. "You're here to speak to me, Rick," Malcolm continued, "and I'm here to inform you. Effective immediately, you're done." Rick laughed, but there was no humor. "You're replacing me with her?" Malcolm didn't blink. "I'm not replacing you, I'm removing you." Rick's lips curled into something darker. "You're going to regret this." "No," Malcolm said quietly, "you are." And just like that, Rick was gone. The glass door swung shut behind him, the silence he left behind louder than any slam. But the absence of Rick didn't mean peace. From the moment Nia stepped into the back office, she felt the shift. Carly and Trevor didn't quit, but they didn't fall in line either. They showed up late, slowed orders, whispered to each other behind closed doors. The sabotage started small, sauces were swapped, tips were rerouted, orders were sent to the wrong tables. By day 3, Yelp reviews had tanked. One customer accused a server of charging twice for a single meal. Another stormed out after waiting 40 minutes for a burger that was never made. The kitchen descended into chaos, and Nia could feel it. Resentment in every hallway, resistance behind every passive smile. Then the video dropped. A shaky cell phone clip of Rick laughing outside a bar saying, "Let's see how long the maid lasts." It went viral. District disgrace started trending on TikTok. Comments exploded. "She's a diversity hire. Bring back Rick." This is what happens when they hand out power like candy. Nia sat alone in her office that night, the video playing on repeat. The walls felt smaller, her hands trembled. She wanted to scream, or disappear, or both. But instead, she opened the staff logbook. She began documenting everything: timestamps, mistakes, shifts, voices caught on camera, every moment of sabotage, because this wasn't just misbehavior, it was a war. And she wasn't about to lose, not after coming this far. By Saturday night, the district table teetered on the edge of collapse. The dinner rush had arrived like a hurricane, orders stacked, customers restless, the air inside thick with frustration. Burgers were undercooked, drinks delayed. A table near the window flagged a server 3 times before anyone noticed. At the counter, a woman tapped her acrylic nails impatiently. "I've been waiting 20 minutes for a black coffee," she snapped. Nia stood behind the register, eyes scanning the floor, heart pounding. Across the dining room, Carly leaned lazily against the bar, scrolling through her phone. Trevor moved at a snail's pace behind the soda machine, sloshing soda into cups like it was a protest. They weren't hiding it anymore. This was a message. A man near the back called out, "This place didn't used to be this bad." Murmurs followed. Whispers of "ever since she took over" floated through the room like poison. Nia's hands tightened into fists. She had tried everything: coaching, patience, leadership. She'd met them halfway. They responded with sabotage. And then the door opened. Malcolm Cross stepped inside, dressed in charcoal grey, posture rigid. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His eyes swept the chaos like a judge stepping into court. Trevor caught sight of him first and stiffened. Carly quickly tucked her phone away and pretended to wipe down the bar. Nia turned toward the kitchen. "Marcus," she called, "I need you to take over the grill now." The chef nodded, flipping his gloves on. Then she grabbed a spare apron, tied it tight around her waist, and moved to the drink station. She worked fast, pouring, sealing, stacking. Her hands flew from cup to cup. At the pass window, she double-checked every plate. Fries crisp, buns warm, burgers perfect. She called out names with clarity and confidence. "Order for Jenkins, pick up for table 7. She moved like she was built for this, a blur of precision and calm. One by one, the delays cleared. The rhythm returned. And the crowd, I noticed. A woman whispered to her husband, "She's the only reason this place is functioning." Malcolm stayed silent near the wall, watching every move. Then finally, the line thinned. Orders slowed. The last tray left the pass window. The storm had passed. But the damage was done, and Nia knew it couldn't go unanswered. She turned to Carly and Trevor, both avoiding her gaze, both sweating now under Malcolm's watch. "Office, now." They followed slowly, like prisoners to sentencing. Inside, Nia didn't yell. She didn't need to. "I gave you both a choice," she said, her voice low and steady. "You chose sabotage." Carly crossed her arms. "You think you're some savior." "No," Nia said, "but I'm not your victim either." Trevor looked down. "It wasn't personal." "It was calculated," she replied. Then she stepped aside, revealing Malcolm Cross behind her. "You'll clean out your lockers," he said flatly. "Today." No arguments came, just silence. And as they walked out, defeated, Nia didn't feel victorious. She felt focused. Because this fight wasn't about revenge, it was about respect. And she had just won it. The following week, the district table felt different. Gone was the tension that once crackled in every hallway. In its place came something lighter, steadier. like the restaurant had exhaled for the first time in years. The smell of fresh-baked buns mingled with the sound of laughter from the kitchen. Orders flowed like clockwork. Plates came out hot, correct, and fast. The staff, once fractured, began to move as one. Leah, a new server barely 2 weeks in, stepped up to the register with confidence. Marcus, now lead cook, prepped lunch service with an energy Nia hadn't seen in him since her first day. Even the newer hosts had started wearing their uniforms like armor, with purpose, not obligation. And in the center of it all stood Nia Bennett. No longer the invisible waitress, no longer someone who had to shrink herself to survive. She belonged here. She led here. Customers noticed, regulars returned, some cautiously at first, then with praise. "This place is alive again," one man told her. "It feels like it actually cares." Nia simply nodded. That was the goal all along. Not perfection, just decency. And then, on a Wednesday afternoon, as the lunch crowd thinned, her phone buzzed. "Malcolm Cross. Meet me at the cafe, 5 o'clock sharp." Later that evening, Nia stepped into the same sunlit cafe on Glenwood Avenue. The table by the window was waiting for her. So was Malcolm, same crisp suit, same unreadable expression. He didn't offer a handshake this time, just a nod. "You did it," he said, pouring her a cup of black coffee. "The reviews are back up, staff turnover stabilized. You turned a sinking ship around in 10 days. Nia smiled faintly. "I didn't do it alone." "You didn't have to," he replied. "That's what makes it leadership." She sipped her coffee. "So, is this a check-in?" "Not quite," Malcolm said, sliding an envelope across the table. "It's a proposal." Nia's fingers hesitated on the paper. "Another one?" Malcolm's gaze sharpened. "I don't just want you managing that location, Nia. I want you overseeing 5 more. East Region. Full autonomy, full trust. The title would be Regional Director." Her breath hitched. "That's massive." "It is," he said simply, "and you've earned it." Nia leaned back, the cafe's soft jazz barely audible over the pulse in her ears. She thought of Mason, of Rick's voice telling her she'd never last, of Carly's sneers, Trevor's sabotage, the humiliation of being fired for doing the right thing. And now this. "Why me?" she asked quietly. "Because you saw dignity where others saw irrelevance," Malcolm said, "and you fought for it. In this business, that's rare." She folded her hands in her lap. "It won't be easy." "No," he said, "but it will matter." Nia looked out the window at the city slowly turning gold under the setting sun. Then she turned back to Malcolm. "I'm in. Sometimes power doesn't come with a title. It comes the moment you refuse to look away, even when it costs you everything. Because doing the right thing isn't always safe, but it's always worth it. And when you lead with courage, the world takes notice. Power doesn't always arrive with a title or a corner office. Sometimes it walks through the back door of a restaurant on tired feet, with a coffee-stained apron and a quiet conviction that everyone deserves to be seen. Sometimes it looks like a single mother who dares to speak up when silence is safer. Sometimes power is not about how loud your voice is, but how unwavering your principles are. Nia Bennett never set out to lead a revolution. She just wanted to do her job, pay the bills, and get her son the care he needed. But life has a way of choosing its heroes in unlikely places, during small moments that seem invisible to the world. And when that moment came, when the room went silent and no one moved to serve the man who didn't wear his status on his sleeve, Nia did what came naturally. She stepped forward. She didn't know he owned the chain. She didn't know it would cost her the only paycheck keeping her afloat. She only knew one thing: you don't treat people like they're disposable. What happened next wasn't just corporate drama. It wasn't just a staff shakeup or a viral video or a hostile work environment getting a much-needed correction. It was a shift in culture. It was proof that doing the right thing, especially when no one's watching, matters. And that's the lesson. Integrity isn't always rewarded immediately. In fact, it's often punished first. It makes you a target before it makes you a leader. But the people who change systems, who shift entire rooms, are never the ones who play it safe. They're the ones who stand up while others sit back. They're the ones who serve with dignity when everyone else is too busy judging to lift a hand. Nia didn't win because she played their game. She won because she refused to. She built trust where there was cynicism. She restored fairness where there was favoritism. She gave people a reason to believe that things could be better, not because someone at the top demanded it, but because someone at the heart of it led by example. And yes, she was underestimated, overlooked, dismissed. But she never lost herself. So if you're reading this, if you've ever been told you're too quiet, too soft, too ordinary to make a difference, remember her. Remember that the people who leave the deepest impact rarely announce themselves. They show up, they stand firm, they fight with grace, and when given the chance, they rise. Power doesn't change who you are, it reveals it. And in the end, the strongest legacy you'll leave isn't what you built, but how you built it, moment by moment, act by act, when no one else thought it mattered. Until one day, it changes everything. If you loved this wild ride at the district table, where Nia Bennett's quiet courage flipped the power dynamics and exposed what was broken behind polished smiles, then buckle up, because there's so much more to come. Hit that subscribe button for the X Daily Stories channel, your front row seat to gripping tales that twist, turn, and leave you thinking. We're dropping fresh cinematic stories every week, drama, redemption, power shifts, and life lessons that stick with you long after the credits roll. Don't miss out, join our crew, turn on notifications, and dive into the next epic adventure. Because here at X Daily Stories, we don't just tell stories, we spark change, one voice at a time.